All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Worst to First here on hoopslounge.com, where we do our season preview. Starting now with the Eastern Conference, we have the Toronto Raptors. We have them as a team ranked as the seventh best team in the East. And that means they're in the playoffs. I had them at 7. Justin had them a little bit higher, giving them a little bit more credit at 6. Pretty good offseason, adding Corey Joseph, Damari Carroll, Luis Scola, Bismack Biyombo, DeLon Wright, and Norman Powell. They did lose fan favorite Amir Johnson's Sixth Man of the Year, Lou Williams, and the guy who was going to land them, Kevin Durant, in Grievous Vasquez. But overall, I think they did pretty well. This is a team with more depth, I don't know if I want to say more talent, maybe overall. But I've got to give a big shout out to Norman Powell. He is the Phil stamp for approval. Watch out for this year. Fly under the radar. Justin, when you're looking at the Toronto Raptors, we were just off by one pick. You had them a bit higher. So I think it's your stage to sing their praises of what they did right this year. And to you, what was that?
Well, I think they probably improved about 7 out of their 15 positions on the roster. We're looking at a team that was a top 5 offensive team in the NBA last season that added a lot of defense. And I don't think they really lost a whole lot in offense either. Lou Williams, I think, is more flash than substance. I think Corey Joseph is somebody that's going to be able to run the offense a lot better than Grievous Vasquez with less freewheeling. You know what you're getting with Corey Joseph at all times. Damari Carroll, huge addition. Someone that takes the right shots. He shoots behind the three-point line or he gets to the rim and can defend guys like a LeBron James, a Carmelo Anthony, a Paul George, which is something they sorely needed for a very long time, was someone that can defend the elite players while still bringing offense rather than a one-way player like a James Johnson. You move Terrence Ross to backup shooting guard, so you're moving a starter to the bench, so obviously you're gaining some bench depth there. And I think Amir Johnson's time had kind of passed. I don't think he was nearly as effective as he should have been. Not a good rebounder at all. I think Luis Scola, he's going to bring offense as well as some defense. You look at Scola's advanced defensive numbers. He had this more impact at the rim than most players on Indy. And he obviously benefited from playing with Frank Vogel and will be able to bring some of that over to the Raptors and Dwayne Casey. So I think they're very improved. We talked about Boston having a high floor. This is another team that I think has a really, really high floor. We gave the benefit of the doubt to some other teams, but Toronto could easily finish in the top 4, and I wouldn't be too surprised.
I would agree with you in everything you said, except for when I'm looking into my magic crystal ball towards the end of the year, I don't know if this is the team that is going to end up, because when you look at what they've done, they've added a lot of youth and talent. Like Masai Ujiri is kind of known for this, right? He builds while he builds for the future and the present. But this is a team, to me, that looks like, you know, they have some nice players in DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, JV, but none of these players are without their faults. And in a league that needs superstars to win, usually, do you think this is a team that he's just kind of like Boston was doing, but maybe they're doing a better job at it, just collecting assets and replacement parts to make a really big splash? Because to me, I look at this team and I'm like, we said it was a high floor. I think it's a decent ceiling, but I don't think it's enough that you really want to hang your hat on this team just yet. Maybe you think I'm wrong, but do you think this is a team that they're going to build forward with, or do you think this is a big trade waiting to happen?
I think there's a big trade waiting to happen. I don't think this team, this core as presently constructed, is able to contend for a title or is going to be able to. Kyle Lowry's 30 plus. His best days are starting to become behind him, and certainly when guys like Jonas Valanciunas hit their prime, he's no longer going to be in his. Now, while I agree that there could be some shakeup of the Raptors roster, I'm not so sure that happens until the offseason. They get the first round pick coming over from New York. And we've seen with Cleveland and other playoff teams that once you start going deep in the playoffs, and if you can actually make it to the second round, those players, your role players, gain more exposure. The trade value of those players start to increase. So I think that's part of why Ujiri likes to remain competitive while he rebuilds, because that increases the worth of the assets in the eyes of the league, and he's able to get more in those trades. So while I think there's some potential that they make a shakeup throughout the season, I don't know if it's going to be anything more significant than potentially pairing like Terrence Ross and James Johnson, which shouldn't really affect the win-loss column too much.
No, exactly. And they have some other nice players coming through. I can't talk about my Toronto Raptors without giving Bruno Caboclo another please make it happen this year. He's gained a bit of weight, looking a bit better. So there's a lot of potential there, and the trades could happen. I think the reason I'm okay with the Toronto Raptors and still really pushing for them is exactly like you said. I think the way Masai conducts his business is just elite to me. He's one of the few GMs who I never doubt what he's doing. He always surprised me. Bismack Biyombo, 20. I mean, he could be 45, but he's listed at 22 years old. And look, the guys they got were young. Corey Joseph can shoot the three, can play defense. He could step in if something happens to Kyle, and you're not upset with what you're getting. I think I think with this team, I agree with you. I don't think he breaks continuity coming regular season. Maybe by trade deadline if they see things aren't working the way they work, because some people said last year that they kind of had a really good first half because of the schedule, and then after that it wasn't as good. So let's see if the schedule is as favorable. You know, if they hit All-Star break at the 9th spot, do they potentially consider this? Because they will have to decide what to do with DeMar DeRozan soon and JV. And they have to decide, are these franchise players that you want to keep around, or these guys that you're going to trade? And the aforementioned Kyle Lowry, even though he's in fantastic shape right now, he is 30 years old and will only get on the downside. So before these dinos go extinct, they may want to, reinvent themselves a la Jurassic Park. All right, guys, this has been another Worst to First preview of the Toronto Raptors with myself, Phil Boileau, and Justin Rowan. We'll catch you guys next time.